fantasy, so I listen to Easy and Alan on their Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. During the show, you can live chat with Easy and Alan at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com. Rumour has it, Lenny only swings one way, with Launch Angle. Now here's Easy and Chris Allen.
And we are here the day after Christmas on a Wednesday night, the day after most people, or at least the Wednesday when most people are done playing fantasy football. And just out there quick to the chat room, you know what? This is a holiday show. We're going to talk a little bit about everything with my co-host, Chris Allen. Chris, how are you doing and what are you drinking?
I'm doing quite well. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all the folks out in the chat room listening tonight. And tonight, I've got a little bit of eggnog with some whiskey. So,
eggnog? Homemade eggnog or the carton stuff?
The carton stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's still good enough.
It's okay, and the whiskey helps. But
yeah.
we talked about that. I need to get you homemade eggnog. I think we talked about that. If you've ever had real eggnog.
I have not. I've always wanted to try it.
It's delicious, and it's pretty simple to make. I mean, it's not that hard. Now, some people don't like the raw eggs, but I'm looking to die from something, and it might as well be raw eggs and alcohol.
I mean, I figure if there's alcohol involved in it and I die from that, hey, we had a good run, folks.
Right.
We really did. We had a good run.
I mean, I never liked the stuff. And again, this is why I'm apologizing in the chat room. Me and Chris at the last minute decided to do a show. We're winging it. We're going to talk. I'll be real honest. In the chat room, don't get too upset with us. We're going to talk a little bit about, who knows what. But obviously right now, alcohol. But I watched something knowing I don't like eggnog. And then when I heard the ingredients, I went, I like all that stuff. Eggs, cream, sugar, liquor. I'm like, I like all that. So
can't argue with any of that.
No. And it really is. And a little bit of nutmeg or cinnamon. I mean, it just varies. Yeah. And, the shit's good. It really tastes like melted ice cream with with alcohol in it. So
pretty much.
It has a weird I tried a couple recipes where you cook the eggs because of the scare of raw eggs. It's not the same. It's not the same though.
How is it not the same? I guess I don't understand that. What's the difference?
Well, it's enough about brewing that just in chemistry, when you put heat to some ingredients, it changes the texture. It changes some of the.
But are you heating just the eggs, or are you heating the whole mixture with like the cream and sugar? And all that?
Most of the ones I've done, you have to heat the whole mixture because if you just heat the eggs, you end up with cooked scrambled eggs.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
So you have to cook the cream and the sugar and get it to close to a boil. Then you do the I'm trying to temper the eggs and do that stuff, and so you end up with just trust me, my whole family's had it. They would all say my family prefers the raw eggs. Now, they say, I don't know, the raw egg thing. I don't think is what it was not too long ago. You know what I'm saying? I think 10 years ago, maybe it was a deal. I don't think you hear of people dying of raw eggs nowadays, do you? I mean,
no, I haven't in a while.
Right. You hear of other salmonella issues, where it's on spinach or on, it's on weird crap that you wouldn't think about. Raw eggs. Andrea's saying, right, you have to add liquor. And I agree. Even the stuff in the carton that Chris is drinking, you add the liquor, does make a difference.
Yes.
It does make it a little more drinkable to me, the stuff in the carton. But homemade is still, I know, Andrea, there still is salmonella. But what I'm saying is I think the eggs you get at a Kroger's that, those big egg companies now, I think are treating eggs a little different to where it's not as, like I said, I don't know. If I die from raw eggs and liquor, I'll accept that. That would be my.
If that's how I go out, that's how we go out there.
Chris, we had to, it's good. I would recommend it. Now, I am going to drink also this evening. My family usually just buys me my generic beer, which they did. I got a case of Heine, but I did get, my daughter saw it. She got me the Fathead Pimp My Sleigh Belgian style Christmas ale. So first one, just opened it. Never had it in my life. I've had a few other Fatheads. Oh, very, very dark. And I like some of the Belgian wheats. So it's a pretty dark beer.
Yeah, it looks delicious. A Christmas ale? Yeah.
Have you had the Pimp My Sleigh?
No, I haven't had that.
You're kind of logo. I mean, I know you're the logo guy. I mean, it's
you know me and bottle/can art. I mean,
right.
Absolute. It can be absolute piss water, and if it has good artwork on it, I'm buying it.
Right. Fathead. Andrew says Fathead sounds like a porter. It's not. I mean, Fathead here. I know Fathead's in Ohio, isn't it, or close? Where's Fathead, the brewery?
Yeah, it's nearby. I want to say it's in like the tri-state area. If
Why
it's not like northern Ohio, if I'm not mistaken.
It does not say here on the bottle, but I know Fathead has. Oh, yeah, it is Middleburg, Ohio.
Yep.
Middleburg Heights, Ohio. But Fathead has all different kind of beers. Yeah, PBR is pea water, but I can drink a PBR here and there when I need to, or a Trotwood, or I did get a 6-pack of Trotwood for Christmas. So I am going to drink the Christmas ale. This guy is nuts. Treat eggs differently so you don't get salmonella. That's not a thing. Okay, I guess, David, I don't know. I'm no expert. I agree with that. I just know I don't hear of it like I did 20 years ago. Oh. And I thought that had more to do with smaller farms and things like that. Where nowadays I thought they did more things, because the salmonella I always heard actually was more likely to be on the outside of the shell than in the egg itself. And it's when you crack the egg, it goes in. So I don't know. You're right. I don't know. I don't know things. I don't know anything. All I know is if you add liquor to it, it's got to be okay. I've always heard, I'm old enough to know in the old days, you always heard you add liquor to anything that was going to be bad in a few days because then it would last longer. I don't think any of that's true, but it sounds good.
Well, I'll roll with it. I'll believe it for right now. If it helps me not get salmonella, I'll do it.
Right. Okay. I'm going to take a break here and drink my Christmas ale. But yes, we're going to have a fun show tonight. Like I said, we got very little play on. Fantasy is over.
Well, there are some folks that are still playing in week 7.
I know.
Which I still do not get.
I agree. Like I said, me and Lou talked Saturday. I'm not sure the last 2 years I'd want to play week 16. Week 16 is almost as bad these days.
Yes.
Because of too many people sitting there, players. And I get it. Teams, there's, we talk about in the NFL how, what's the word? Parity. Is that the right word? That there's so much parity in the NFL that it's like close. But it does seem like the last few years, there's been 5-6 teams that already in week 15 know that they're in the playoffs and they're already resting people.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think enough teams, they hit their stride at the right time, or they have so much of a lead on the rest of the teams that they have their division or the 1 seed locked up early enough in advance they can start to sit some of their players. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that we have to try and avoid. But I mean, that's just the nature of the NFL. There's really no getting around it. I mean, I think that's the easiest way we can get around it is by cutting off the fantasy season in week 16. But there are still some leagues that roll into week 17. And
would you have a problem with it being cut off earlier?
I would say,
if week 12 is the last week, we have bye weeks. So let's say we went all the way through week 12 and started our playoffs in 13 and went 13, 14, 15. Would you be fine with that?
I think that'd be okay. I mean, I don't see much of an issue with it. One less regular season game. I mean, as long as you still held the same playoff rules in terms of like if you still want to give players bye weeks or however you want to do that system.
Right, nothing would change. Nothing would change. If anything, the thing I would like about that is you're not playing. You know how most leagues you don't play every team once. You play every team once, and then a few random teams you play twice to get in 12 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Where if you played through week 12, you would in a 12-team league, you would just play every team. Well, no, you'd still have one extra. Shit, I wasn't even doing the math. I forgot the 12th team would be the 12th. So you'd only be playing one extra week, one extra team instead of two. Because I've never liked that technically, that like ESPN, they do that randomly so that you're playing, you could be the team that plays the two worst teams twice, where someone else got stuck playing the two best teams twice because it's random. I've never really liked it, but there's no way around that. Other than I've always thought why not go partway through the season and then do then change your schedule up to do in softball, we call it an equalizer or a bracket week. And what you do is team 1 plays team 2, team 3 plays 4, 5 plays 6, and you just, so everyone's playing an equal caliber team 1 week. You know what I'm saying? You just could throw that in the middle so that, gives everybody, no one's playing an edge there. Just load the eggnog up with a few bottles of Jim Beam and nothing else matters. I agree. I'm there. Malpow, Andrea, David out there again. Thanks if you stay with us here at Lenny Melnick, fantasysports.com in the chat room. I appreciate it because, like I said, tonight we're just going to talk some fun stuff. So that would be one of my things, is maybe just, maybe week 13. Now, see, 2 years ago, because the way the London stuff went down, they had bye weeks in week 13. So I don't think you should ever have tournament games or playoff games when there's byes. This year, there was no byes in week 13. So you could play the regular season through 12. And then if I had to do it, I think I would play through week 12. Then 13 and 14 be your first rounds of the playoffs. And then 15 and 16 do your Super Bowl 2 weeks. ESPN doesn't let you do that. But that way, somebody that still has some players that are, I don't know, 2 weeks of playoffs, to me, I'm kind of starting to buy that. It's hard to do in most leagues because if you do it most leagues, you have to do every bracket has to be 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
I'm not a fan of it, but I have no problem with the Super Bowl being 2 weeks. Would you?
I don't know. The Super Bowl being 2 weeks. I mean, that's a lot.
Meaning you and the other team. If you're in the Super Bowl, it would be you and one other team. You'd play 2 weeks. Now, here's one of the reasons. I told you that I got my butt killed last week. I lost 170 something to like 111. So that dropped me out of the playoffs. But me and that team made a side bet for 2 weeks for the team who scored the most points. Guess who won $200? Because I got my ass kicked 1 week, and I came back and kicked his ass the next week, and I won. I actually wasn't in the Super Bowl, but he lost because he obviously had a bad week. Right. So he lost, and then I had a great week. I scored over 210 points, and I beat him by about 16 points over the 2 weeks. And that was after getting beat by 50 the week before. I came back and beat him by 70 the next week. So
I don't know if that's really I don't know if you're really advocating for 2 week Super Bowls or if you're just really pointing towards the variance that is the NFL.
Well, that's the variance is the NFL. That's why, to me, if you play 2 weeks of Super Bowl, that variance is weighed a little less. Meaning, in this case, me and him, what happened in our league is the semifinals were blowouts, and then the Super Bowl was a blowout. Where if it had been a 2 week thing, I ended up winning by 17 or something, but at least it was close. Me and him were going, actually, he needed Lindsey to score 21 points, which was possible. He had the last player, he needed Lindsey, and then obviously Lindsey got hurt and only got him like 8 points. So,
for sure.
To me, that variance is, that's the problem. To me, the variance should be less in the Super Bowl, maybe. That's why
I don't know how you'd really be able to get around that, though. There's really
Does 2 weeks not do that? Meaning, if someone kicks my ass twice, I'm like, all right, you won. Where if in this case, he kicked my butt last week, I came back, kicked his butt this week, and overall in 2 weeks, I beat him. So,
I mean, if you really want to
say that doesn't matter. I mean, 2 weeks to me, we both had variance. Both have variance opposite ways. He had a great week 1 week. I had it the next week. So
yeah, if you want to really smooth it out, though, I think 3 would be the minimum number of weeks you'd want to do it for a championship. But that's unrealistic at that point.
Right. So I don't know. The problem is ESPN doesn't allow hardly any of that kind of stuff.
No,
Fantrax does give you some options for, I think, 2 week Super Bowls, but I think the one I did there, but that was week 16 and 17, which to me, I don't think 17 should ever be involved.
Yeah, I mean, because then there's just at that point, week 17, and I wrote about this in my last article for my QB streaming article for 4for4, is that there's too much narrative that comes into play, and you have to do quite a bit of research into not just the players themselves, but just how the coaches approach week 17. So if they don't have anything to play for, so like with New Orleans, Green Bay, regardless of what type of situation they're in, whether they're going to the playoffs or not, you really do have to research the coaches' tendencies and also the players' tendencies. Some vets, they kind of have that option. If they want to shut it down, they can shut it down. And the coaches will most likely go with what the player decides, depending on which franchise you're talking about. So there's just this extra layer of research that you have to do, where if it was week 12, 13, 14, you don't really have to worry about all that much.
And again, in maybe expert leagues, maybe you play 17 now. Hey guys, keep playing, pick up players, move your rosters. But in most home leagues, no one's doing that research. Most home leagues, it's just set it and go. I'm amazed still that as popular as fantasy is, that there's still a lot of guys that just think you draft and set your lineup and you go. For the 15 or 16 weeks if you make it that far. So
yeah, and I'm with I think it was David in the chat was just talking about it earlier. I think like week 16 is pretty much where I would agree that 95% of the players, I mean, if they're healthy enough to play, they're playing. I mean, you might have some extreme situations.
You say that, but that wasn't the case this week. If the Giants were in the playoff hunt, Odell Beckham would have played. I'm convinced of that.
I don't know.
Well, we say that, but it would have been more likely. My point is,
you can't say that though, because he had to go to the hospital for his quad injury. So I can't say that a dude that has to go to his quad, go to the hospital for a quad injury during the middle of the week is expected to play on Sunday. Right. Now, in his situation, I don't think so. But now in a couple other places, like in the case of Gurley, I do believe that if it had been I think it'd been week 8, 9, 10, he might have been at least active. Limit, maybe on a snap count. We might have heard more of those narratives, but I think in their particular situation, I mean, it was more of gamesmanship leading on up to the game. So I think there are situations that we can look at that have that speak to that. But again, I think in most cases, if the players are healthy to go week 16, they're most likely going to play.
Right, and he's saying Odell Beckham set 3 weeks. But that it's not an issue. It wasn't an issue because they were out of the playoffs all 3 of those weeks. Even the first week he was out, they were already out. That's my point. I know you can say he went to the hospital and maybe it was worse than we all think, but we'll never know because they weren't in the playoff hunt at that point. So, that would be my issue a little bit is, 3 weeks, I get it, but why hurt yourself this year? Hey, I get it. I don't want to, be working on an injury all summer long. If I was a highly paid NFL player, I would prefer to get through this season, have a normal off season and come back next year. I don't want to work on a, MCL or ACL or even a minor injury that makes me go 2 or 3 months. I'm sorry. And the way I don't know, I guess I read between the lines with Odell Beckham. I know he's the one that did all this, the medical stuff. His team is the one that said it was worse. The Giants didn't. So I don't know. I think they would have pushed it a little more if they were still in the hunt. That would be my deal. And like Malpal says, 12 teams, 16 weeks, and the Super Bowl in their league, it looks like came down to 1 point. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. And that's the way is that the way it should be? Like I said, I think I'd rather get my ass kicked than lose by 1 point, because 1 point's a mistake I could have made. Getting my ass kicked in the semifinals, it wasn't on me at all. I mean, my whole, I couldn't have changed a thing. I didn't have enough players to do anything. And we already talked. You didn't have any Super Bowl teams going, right?
Not this weekend. All of my finals were decided last week.
Now, are your best balls? Do most best balls go through week 17? Also, I think they do, right?
I think for most of the ones I'm playing in week 16 is the cutoff for a similar reason that you're alluding to.
Okay, I got you. Meaning a lot of players are going to play that weren't even drafted, maybe. So
exactly, depending on the situation, there's a lot of variance that goes into which players are going to be available during that final week. So if I'm not mistaken, I think most of them cut off during week I'd have to double check because I was just looking at my standings and most of them and counting my monies.
Counting my monies. Well,
Yeah,
I'm just saying, I ended up cashing this year on a side bet. Wasn't even in the playoffs and took second place money down. I was pretty excited.
There you go. Yeah,
and it gave me a reason to watch again. And to be real honest, I didn't even start Sunday morning too into it yet. I still, was projected to lose and all that. And then I started going, wait a minute. I had Aaron Rodgers. I had a few players that went off. His players were not. It was pretty fun. He had now he ended up picking up CJ Anderson, but didn't play him. That would have made a difference. And he, long story short, he did another move that cost him. He ended up having no kicker.
Ooh.
Well, no, that was he. I think he did it for the right reasons. When I talked to him, his Super Bowl, and now I'm talking not against me. He was actually playing, in the Super Bowl matchup. It was so tight, and that guy had Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that guy was struggling a little bit early on Sunday morning, and he was struggling a little bit. But at that point, he knew that if that guy played Chris Gurley, and he still had Chris Gurley in his lineup, that he went ahead. The only person he could drop, he had two people he could only drop his kicker to pick up CJ Anderson. So he did that because he figured he'd be better off not having a kicker than the opponent playing CJ Anderson.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying? He says, I was willing to take a 0 at kicker to make him take a 0 at running back.
That's some.
I know.
Okay. Brain.
And then here's what he said. And then at 4 o'clock, then he was going to drop CJ Anderson right at 4, hoping this guy wouldn't pick him up quick enough and then grab a kicker. Well, by the time 4 o'clock came, he was getting his ass kicked so bad, he just said, I don't care. So the move didn't matter other than if he'd have played a kicker, he might have beat me, meaning, it depends. I still beat him by 12 and a half or something like that. I'm not sure if I didn't even go back to see if there was a kick on the waiver wire that got that, but he did take a 0 in his kicker spot because by that time
I might have gotten that much.
Yeah, because the other guy had Chris. The other guy had everyone that went off. So by playing, he got a 0 at running back, and still beat the guy. So
yeah,
it was fun to watch, and I cashed out. So, how was the Christmas brisket? What'd you end up? You were smoking something Christmas.
Oh yeah,
what were you smoking?
Yeah, smoked a brisket and a ham. Both turned out quite well. Finished those up around. That was about maybe 11:30 on a Monday night, and then threw them in the oven at about 2:25, somewhere in there for a couple hours or so on Christmas morning to warm it back up. And then it turned out quite well.
Well, good. I smoked a turkey. And he went most of the day, Christmas Day. We didn't have dinner till 5. I put him on early. He came off at like 3. I let him rest a little bit. And man, my family will tell you a smoked turkey, little hickory and peach wood. It was awesome.
Oh, that's all you need. Yeah, I normally use apple, but yeah, I'm with you.
I have peach wood because I got it on sale, and I had hickory, so I just kind of mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I shoved a little bit of lemon and apples in the old turkey rumpus, and I'm a breast side up.
Mm-hmm.
Get to about 125, 135. I flip him over, and or I do breast down, then breast up, so that the juices can drip down through the breast to start with.
Yeah.
Then I flip him back up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it was delicious.
Yeah, that's how you do it, man.
Yeah, it is. That smoked turkey, and then I make a broth out of the turkey drippings and the bones and all that. It cooks all day. We had that the next day with some noodles. Oh, it was delicious.
Oh yeah.
So the whole family did the brisket. And did you get any smoking equipment or fantasy equipment, or did you get anything for Christmas that makes you a better fantasy player?
Nothing.
Me neither. I know my whole family has no idea. My whole family just thinks I'm alcoholic. I just get beer and liquor. It's like no fantasy gear, no podcasting gear. I buy gear.
Most of those things throughout the year. I get my fantasy, my T-shirts and stuff like that from
all ahead of time.
All ahead of time. I mean, all my brewing supplies. I mean, I'll pop down to Joey's, a couple times a month and pick up stuff there from HBYOB. And but yeah, I mean, nothing too fancy for Christmas.
This isn't terrible. I've had better Christmas ales. This one's a little. I want to say it's almost not it's not spicy enough to me. Maybe there's not that allspice or that, cinnamony.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, if you're going to call something a Christmas ale, put some damn spices in it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not terrible, And my daughter was like, I think it's the first time she's ever bought craft beer because she goes, I paid the same amount for these 4 bottles as what I did for your whole case of the Heineken stuff. I said, well, that's the way it goes sometimes. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
It just happens that way. Mm-hmm. And before us, we had Brian on before us. He has a show, and I have to tell you, sometimes you hear a name of a podcast or a show, and I thought one thing, and then I had to think another thing. And they're called, I think it's Mets 360.
Uh-huh.
So I had to stop and think. I thought, so what's he do the other 5 days? I truly, that's the first thought of my mind was 360. Is there like 5 days that you don't? And then I thought, well, wait a minute. Maybe it's 360 degrees. And then I'm like, that means you're talking about the exact same thing, because if you're going to do the Mets 360, you're always coming right around to the same point.
Right.
So, hey, you guys, I've listened 2 weeks in a row. I love that you're in before our show. Explain the name to me. Is the 360 the days? Is it represent something?
You have to tune in and watch the show.
Well, I did tune in. I just missed the beginning, and I'm not sure if they tell me what the.
Well, that was when he probably explained the name of the show.
And they kept talking that they want Joey Votto that there's rumors out there. Joey Votto. I don't think Joey Votto's leaving the Reds, period. I think he likes Cincinnati. He's not leaving. But there's rumors out there that the Mets are trying to get Joey Votto. I don't want that to happen.
If they want to pick up his contract, then
you would let him have you. Come on, he's fun to go watch. He's
fun to go watch, but is he's still not the same? He's not the same hitter.
Oh, he's not that far away though either. People think that, right? He's not an MVP guy the last couple of years, but he's still
for what he's getting.
He's doing okay. Oh yeah. Once you get MVP money, you're not going to be an MVP every year. It doesn't work that way.
That's not what he's getting paid for. He's getting paid for MVP status, but he's not getting the same
MVP stats. Yeah. I'm just saying, Joey Votto. I don't know. He is the Reds right now. I mean,
that's true.
They made a big trade. I know you don't follow a ton of baseball, but the Reds got Puig from the Dodgers. They got Kemp from the Dodgers. I think that's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
We don't have any pitching yet, but we might be able to score 20 runs a game. That might help.
Yeah. I was actually kind of surprised seeing at least those 2 moves. What was that? That was just within the past couple of weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, just before Christmas.
Yeah.
So it was pretty exciting. I mean, if you go down there now, I mean, that's a small stadium. There could be a lot of home runs. Could be exciting.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, actually, if anything, that sets up that they could get rid of Votto because they might think, hey, we got enough going on.
We got hitters now.
We can get rid of him, but I don't know. Votto is just a fun guy, and I know that doesn't. I mean, now some people, I think that's important. I know there's other people. No, if you don't win, I don't care. I'm not that kind of guy with the Reds. We have championships. We've had good seasons. We've done all that, and yes, we've been just okay lately. But there's something about enjoying the guys that are on the field, and the Reds have been fun. I mean, and again, maybe it's part of my, the Dayton Dragons that they've all come up right here, and I've got to watch them when they were young. And
there's definitely something to that. I can get behind that.
All right, so it makes a little bit of a difference. So, what did you get? One, I mean, any kind of a present that you want to talk about that like was the top of your list, or is it just that it was just an okay? And I get it. I mean, I have those. I'm old. Every once in a while, you just have those okay Christmases. There's not that, you loved everything you got, but you didn't, you didn't, So, right. Votto is a 10-5 and could veto any trades. I do agree.
He's at that status.
Yeah, I agree. But did you get anything exciting, Chris?
No, not particularly. My wife got me some shoes and a belt.
There you go.
The typical. Yeah, I can't complain about that. Now,
alligator, maybe.
No.
Not rocking the gator.
No. I need some better shoes for work.
And there's something about I get them every year, but I only time I eat Jelly Bellies is at Christmas.
Really?
Do you like Jelly Bellies?
Oh, absolutely.
It is the premier jelly bean. I mean, it makes Dollar General, dollar store jelly beans just seem disgusting. When I was a kid, I ate a lot of shitty jelly beans. there is something about the Jelly Bellies. Yeah. But I won't, and it's not that I can't afford it. I just don't even think of buying Jelly Bellies any other time of year. But I know every Christmas I get a big box of the Jelly Bellies.
Right.
Are you a Jelly Belly guy? Do you mix the flavors to get another flavor? Or are you just grab a handful
with the directions on the back?
Right, you do the cream soda or the
100%. Yeah, I remember that. Even as a kid, I remember we'd go to Kings Island. Right, my parents had.
Kings people don't know around here. Kings Island is like a mini Disney World. It's
pretty much, yeah.
Was it still Hanna-Barbera? Was it Hanna-Barbera back when you used to go? Yeah. Or do you even know what Hanna-Barbera was?
Yeah. Oh yeah, when I was in grade school, Hanna-Barbera. Oh, I know what Hanna-Barbera.
I know you're older than I, right?
But we'd always used to go to the candy store there at Kings Island. Every time before we left, my parents let us go to the candy store, and I would get just like a pound of Jelly Bellies on the way out, and I would just sit there and just try and mix and match as many flavors on the way home.
Right, you said that. I forgot you could get them there a long time ago. That was before you get them in stores, I think, because that was like,
I want to say that was like one of the.
Now, when you go to the store, see the problem I have with this Jelly Belly stores where you can pick out your own flavors, I struggle with that. Because
it's the fruit ones. That's all I do. Is
No. Because to make like the cherry cobbler and to make that, you have to have the cherry one and you have to have the caramel corn one, because you mix those two together, it gives you
that's what I'm saying. People don't get those enough that they don't stock it. That's what I'm saying.
Right. See, but that's why you need the caramel corn one, because that's a staple to a lot of the other flavors.
100%.
You know, when you're making the margarita, you get the coconut, you get the lime, but I would never buy the coconut one by itself. I wouldn't do that. So I like the big variety box of Jelly Bellies.
Because then you're forced to have all those ones so you can make all those different.
Right. Even the jalapeno pepper one, that's the worst.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
The worst in the box, which some people would argue it is just the black licorice. I'm not a black licorice guy, so I would eat the jalapeno pepper one over.
Who is a black licorice person? I need to meet them and tell them that they're wrong. Like that's because I'm yet to meet a black licorice person, to be quite honest with you. So I don't know.
Testing 1 2. Chris, are you there? Guys, I think we're still on Lenny's thing. I think I just lost Chris on my Hangouts. I will try to get him back. Are you there?
Yeah.
Oh, did you leave or did I go?
I thought you went out.
Oh, all right. Now it has me. I don't know what happened.
You froze out for a second.
The thing is, I don't know if you kept talking or not, but we were on there. But then old people like licorice, and I'm old, but I'm not that old. That's how I know I'm not old enough yet. Yeah. When I start liking, it's too late now. Old people like black licorice because again, that was their candy, right? I mean, I don't think there was all the candy that we had. So, the jalapeno pepper, like I said, then the black licorice would be the bottom of my list. I'm not a big coconut guy. I don't like the coconut by itself, but I will mix it with a couple other flavors. So that's I mean my Jelly Bellies. I'm not saying, and I got a big new expensive cooler.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's my son paid a lot of money for it. It's one of these new coolers that keeps ice like frozen for like 2 weeks or something like that.
All right.
Yeah, that's what I said. But it's a big cooler. I don't know what I'll do with it yet, but it's huge. Heineken. It's huge.
Fill it up with Heineken.
Mrs. Easy comes up missing, check the cooler. It's that big. I'm just saying. I mean,
that's cooler. Goodness.
Or if I come up missing, check the cooler.
All right.
So, that's what I got. I'm trying to think. I got, shirts, pants. I did the normal stuff. I got slippers. I didn't get shoes. I just got slippers.
That's like the typical dad present, though, isn't it?
I know.
Slippers,
but I don't even wear slippers.
It's like slippers and dress socks. I feel like those are like the
all right. Okay.
Quintessential.
My daughter did buy me a pair of socks at the bottom. Say, if you can read this, go get dad a beer.
There you go.
That's what it says on the bottom. But she's never going to buy me a beer. All right, it's time for us to start looking ahead or looking behind in fantasy. And you know me, I get up, I'm not a bold prediction guy because I think for fantasy, I don't want to use the word waste of time. I just don't know how, as a fantasy guy, when someone tells me, hey, here's my bold prediction, how that helps me, because I'm not picking or I'm not doing something based on some random dude's, bold prediction. So I don't want to use that word, but we talked a little bit about running backs in the future, that kind of thing. What right now, here's the question I had. What player that did not meet standards this year do you think's going to drop too far, but you'll still be willing to take a little bit higher? You understand what I'm trying to say? Let's say Odell Beckham in your mind, you think, okay, to me, he didn't do that bad. He didn't have a great season and he got hurt. But let's say he goes from the late first round, early second, which is went this year, and drops to the late third, early four. Would you still take an Odell Beckham next year in the second round?
Yes, without question.
I would too. But I do think in home leagues, there's people that think, I can't take this guy that early anymore.
I think he's going to fall into. I could see him. Let me take that back. I don't think he will. I said I could see him falling into the second round just for what you're talking about right there.
Well, he fell to me and picked 12. So yeah. I made him a first round pick because I took him 12 and Keenan Allen 13. And I could have reversed that either way. Those were my two early picks in my main league, I should say.
Right.
So what other players? I mean, I guess the people I was thinking of is AJ Green. Where do you think he drops to? And are you still going to be willing to take a chance on him, maybe a little more than that?
I think I can see him. So let's see, his ADP this year in 12-team PPR leagues was, let's say, middle of the second, mid to late second. I could see him still being in that area.
Okay. So you don't think he's going to drop then? You don't think he'll drop around?
Maybe a couple of spots, like maybe towards the farther end of the second round, because he will be 30. He'll be 30, closing in on 31, if I'm not mistaken. Cincinnati as a team doesn't look all that great.
Right.
So while I think from a volume perspective, people will still think he'll still get his targets.
Right. So back to the kind of the way I worded the question, though. So you wouldn't take him any higher than what you think he's going to go next year?
No. I mean, I wouldn't take him any higher than that. I think it'll be appropriately priced.
And Malpal kind of said it here. He's saying Gronk. I think Gronk's going to drop way down. If he plays.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm looking for. I know what you're saying, and you're just saying ADP, and I know Chris Allen's thinking I'm just going to draft him at ADP. What I'm trying to say is there a player out there? And I know I'm saying names, but I don't think these are the players, so I don't know. Like a Fournette. Fournette, I think, is going to drop way down. And if Fournette drops to like the fourth round, I would take him in the third, maybe. That's my point. I'm looking at who do you think is going to drop the farthest? But that you as a personal fantasy player is going, I don't think that's legit. I'm willing to go around up or that type thing. And I know you are an ADP guy, a little less risky than me sometimes.
Oh, sure.
So, but that, you know what I'm saying? I think there's going to be a few guys, there is every year, that drop farther than we think. And then, end up actually having a round or two better value. And to me, those are the steals I like. Yeah. I don't like to gamble in the first or second round, but give me a guy who drops this year, was in the second or third, and he's now going to drop to the fifth or the sixth, but I could get him in the fourth and go, man, he gave me second round productivity. That's the guy I'm looking for next year.
I would say that one guy that comes to mind now that you're outlining that type of situation, Corey Davis pops to mind, at least for me, because I think this year, if I'm not mistaken,
this year he went around eighth, right?
Yeah,
around 8, 7.
6, 7, 8, somewhere in there. I could see him dropping into the 8th, 9th, 10th, the way that the Titans have looked all season, the way that Marcus Mariota has been banged up, 3, 4, 5 games so far this season. So I could see a situation where his ADP is depressed along with the rest of the wideouts for Tennessee. And then I wouldn't mind scooping him up and still in the same round, or like taking him a little bit earlier than where his ADP.
Again, I know you struggle. If that ADP's down there, you're not going to take him too early, because I know you. But to me, those are sometimes the guys that I'm will. That third, fourth round pick, I'll play around with a little bit. I'm hoping to get a guy in the fourth round that gives me second round numbers. And you made me right. I don't think AJ Green's going to drop that far, but that's the kind of guy I would love to get AJ Green. If he starts dropping to the late third, early fourth, and I get him, in the early third, that kind of guy.
Him, Allen Robinson, because I think everybody pushed his ADP up into the third, early fourth round because of all the hype surrounding the Chicago Bears. But I do think that from an athletic standpoint, it did seem like because he had some compensatory injuries coming off the ACL tear. I believe he was having groin hip issues over the last few weeks. So I think there's a situation where his ADP could drop, considering that Trubisky was able to get it done with Tariq Cohen, Trey Burton, Anthony Miller. Allen Robinson isn't the focus.
What about a Howard? Even on that same team. Howard, he's going to drop. He went to me. I think he went too high this year. Actually, I didn't have him on any team. I wasn't a Howard guy. So, but to me, Howard's one of those that's close to this. Meaning, if Howard drops to the sixth, I'll take a shot with him in the fifth. Something like that, because he, people right now think Cohen's the man, and next year he might be, but they could, in the off season, things can change.
It's a hard way to make a living if you're banking off of these smaller running backs to be
exactly
your RB1. So I wouldn't. That's not the way that I want to approach fantasy. But I can understand based off of the way that Tariq Cohen's played this year, I can get it. But yeah, I would much rather, if I can get Jordan Howard, like you just said, in the fourth, fifth, versus the late second, early third. I think now we're talking.
Let's say Gronk plays. Malpal's question. If Gronk plays, obviously now there's 4 or 5 tight ends to me that will go before him easily, and maybe more. Do you think he just falls back into the normal pack of tight ends? How far down do you think he will go, and when would you pick a Gronk if he plays next year?
It's Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle, then Gronk, and then pretty much everybody after that.
All right, so you still think Gronk's ahead of? I'm just trying to think who would. Ebron was a little weird this year because of the situation and the team, but obviously you don't know what happens there.
Yep.
Burton, I don't know. I thought Burton would have a better season, but I agree. But that's the point, though. To me, though, the first 3 you named,
that's it.
Or the first 4, but that to me, though, Gronk to me still drops a few rounds after those. I can't imagine Gronk going in the 4th. You think 5th? It's hard for me to believe he would go before the 5th round next year.
I can think people will just take him based off of name value. That's why people wind up drafting quarterbacks early, because they see that name. It's like, oh, Tom Brady. Oh, I'll take him in the 3rd round. In casual leagues, I can still see him going almost similar to where he's been going in the past. You might get him at a round discount in casual leagues, but in sharper leagues, best ball leagues, I can see him dropping quite significantly.
Right, and everyone talks about how tight ends are you can just stream all that, but hey, a lot of teams that made the playoffs this year had Kittle, Kelsey, or Ertz. They were game changers. Those 3 are going to go in the top 4 rounds. I'm assuming next year.
Oh, absolutely. I can see Ertz being a borderline first rounder in Dynasty. I think he's been pushed up quite a bit because
first round. Do you think a tight end in the first round?
I could say if Gronk was going in the first round. Ertz just broke the receptions in a single year. Jason Witten's record. I could see him being pushed up into the first round. If we held Gronk there for however many years, and that was with Tom Brady, and Ertz just put up this season with a combination of Nick Foles and Carson Wentz.
Right. Oh, you might be right. It's possible. What about any quarterbacks like an Aaron Rodgers? Do you think he's going to fall down far enough that he becomes a value with other quarterbacks, or do you think he's still going to be too expensive?
He'll still be a 4th rounder, 5th rounder, somewhere in there. Especially if they wind up getting some sort of even a legitimate head coach. Let's throw out all of the the big names that are being shuffled around right now, like Lincoln Riley or any of the college football, hot college football coaches that might try and make it in the NFL. Even if they just get a legitimate head coach, it'll still be Aaron Rodgers.
Right. So, Aaron Rodgers in my league was the 7th quarterback in scoring this year.
Yeah.
And to be honest, but The other, he was 7, but he was still pretty close, meaning he could have been easily 5th. If one of them crappy games would have been an okay game, he'd have been the 5th.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of QB scoring has been fairly compact this year.
Right. Obviously, in my league, which is a high-scoring league, Mahomes was the top scorer, period. Number 1, 506 points. 60 points more than Todd Gurley in my league.
Yep.
Todd Gurley was 2nd, McCaffrey 3rd, Barkley 4th, Elliott 5th. That's how my top 5 in scoring. Then you had the quarterback run. Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Kamara snuck in there, then Luck, Breeze, Watson, Rodgers, Goff. Those were your top 12.
That sounds about right.
So a bunch of quarterbacks in there. Then you had a run of wide receivers: Adams, Thielen, Brown, Jones. So and Hopkins. So in my league, a few running backs are very top heavy, and then it went wide receiver. It's a PPR. A lot of wide receivers in there. Quarterbacks it would play a super flex. So. A lot of quarterbacks out there. So I don't know. Like I said, to me, those are the guys I'm thinking of now. Those are the guys to me that you want to write down in a notebook right now. The sleepers and stuff, that all comes later, I think, just based on the way teams fall out and draft picks and some of that. But those guys that are actually going to fall, ADP quickly will put them down there, and they may not get back up to where they should be, but they could still be value even if you pick them around early. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Where if you draft him, you go, oh, you got him around early. But that's because in my mind, I'm getting him where he should have been, but I'm hoping he's even around more value to me. You know what I'm saying? So I still think you can pick somebody around early and still get around more value out of him if you get the right players in some cases,
Absolutely. Yeah. And players like you just mentioned, I mean, Matt Ryan, he's at, I think, just over 4,500 yards this season. He's having a better season.
Right. And people think he sucked this year.
Yeah. Well, because the team sucks, but he's having a better season in 2018 than he did in 2017. He barely threw for 4,000 yards next year.
And you got to remember, he's only a couple of years, 3 years now away from an MVP. Maybe. Yep. I mean, so yes, he's one of those quarterbacks you could get in the 10th round next year that,
he'll be a late. Yeah, he'll be a late round. I mean, well, I say mid to late round quarterback.
Right.
He'll be a QB2.
Right. So, that'll be kind of, I don't know. Like I said, I nobody else comes to my mind real quick as far as that kind of player that just had an off year. Again, I think Odell Beckham's going to drop a tad. Obviously, Fournette's going to drop, I think, quite a bit, but I'm still willing to, he's still their number 1 running back. And to me, was he, and my issue with him a little bit is, was he 100% healthy? Did we see, was he as bad as he was the end of the season because of health reasons, or was it also like an Odell Beckham in my mind, where the team was out of it, so he didn't need to do things, so he didn't, I've heard rumors both ways that he wasn't preparing and all that, but again, was he not preparing because he was done? I don't know. So
no, but I think next year, the first round, I mean, if this year's first round wasn't completely filled with running backs or very running back heavy, it will definitely be running back heavy next year.
Right.
I could definitely see a couple more running backs, kind of skirting into the first round, pushing out some other wide receivers.
Right. And then also in my league, and the only reason I bring this up is because we only got a few more minutes, but in our league, the Titans were the number 1 team taken off the board, I think round 10. And they ended up being in my league the 10th scoring defense. They weren't even close to that top defense. The Chicago Bears were by far, they were the top scorer in my league by 60 points. Then you had the Ravens, but and the Ravens are at the top 4 or 5 every year. They don't get drafted till the 14th or 15th round every year. They're, everyone drops them every once in a while because they always have that 1 or 2 shitty games. But then, no defense goes perfect. Even the Bears had a shitty game this year. It just happens. So, you had the Ravens, Texas, the Rams, the Bills. I think is a surprise at defense. On my league, they follow up. They're number 5. So. The Bills they've typically fielded a fairly good defense, just their offense that is really lagging things. I would say they're in a similar situation to the Jaguars, where the Jaguars, we know they have a lot of defensive talent,
but it's just their offense lags so far behind. I mean, their defense it puts a strain on their defense as well, and just brings the entire team down.
Right. So, all right. That's just my little fantasy thing there is right now, look for players in your leagues that, to me, that you think's going to drop farther than you think. And pencil them in, because then when it comes to ADP, then you have if in your mind you go, hey, he's fallen to round 5, but I know he's he's a round 4 kind of guy. So I'm willing to take, and to me, that's why I do that kind of little thing. To me, I don't call it a reach. I call it, I think he's, I just think that's where he should be, right. For certain reasons. And to me, there's probably a handful of players out there. And on the off season, I'm sure we'll have a show where we do a little more research and we come up with more names. It was just one of those things I was thinking today in my head. And
I think that's the perfect process for this, because especially when the best ball lobbies start to open up, the only thing that we'll have available to us after the first couple of weeks is ADP, like how the public is viewing the market.
Right. Right.
So you'll need to take a look at those player rankings and those ADP values, and take a stand on a number of players and say, right. I don't agree with this player. I'm going to draft him in round 2, even if he is valued at if everyone's picking him in the 4th, because I want this guy because I think he'll pop.
Right.
It can be profitable depending on like what your process is.
And again, like I tell people with ADP, it's not a reach if you think it. That's the point. It's a reach if you don't believe it, then don't do it. Don't let ADP dictate, because hey, a lot of those best ball things, those are where your ADP start getting set early. And a lot of the early drafts, hey, we all know they'll start doing they'll be doing a lot of mock drafts starting, in February, and that's where that mock-in stuff ADP starts getting set. So
ADP is just groupthink. That's all it is.
Yeah,
and I mean it's the public seeing how they value these players. So if you value a player differently, then pay that price.
Right, and people are afraid to. Right,
or don't pay that price. I mean, if you don't want to pay because I can see Saquon Barkley being being valued at the, let's say, 5th overall next year, 4th, 5th overall. So if you don't want to pay that price, don't pay that price. Wait, wait, and then get that discount on OBJ that we think is going to happen if he falls to the late 1st, early 2nd.
Right, right. I agree. All right, and you know what? I've been bad habits. I kind of started playing a little poker online here for the first time in a while.
Doing the same. I've been on global every now and again.
Have I been taking your money? Because I'm taking everybody's money right now.
You on 2-4?
2-4, no limit.
Yeah, I've been grinding out, few buy-ins here and there.
I've been playing. Technically, I guess I'm playing right now since I just started back 5 cent, 10 cent. I go in the room with $10. I know tonight I went in the room $10, popped out with 48.
There you go.
Just try to get back in the groove. Fantasy's over, and I need something to spend my time on, so I got to work my way back up to 25 cent, 50 cent, and do all that crap. And I deposited $20 the other day, and I'm up to 200. So
I was just talking with Brumley about that.
Doing my little grind shit.
Yeah,
I'm Easy Kill. Go to Global Poker. You want to sit in a room? Easy Kill will be sitting there.
He plays on Ignition now. He's over.
I know. He's a pain in my butt. Because me and him would sit at a table and we scare each other. He knows better. I told you I went and played with some a judge and a few cops and a police chief and.
Absolutely not. I'm not doing that.
I did it, and I got second place and first place, so I took the most money home, and they weren't happy with me. So
see,
yeah, I don't mind. I don't care. They won't invite me back probably, but I had a good time. And then actually they had to oh man, what do you think of this quarter poker stuff? I don't get it.
No,
we did Texas Hold'em for like 3 or 4 hours. I did pretty well. Like I said, I won quite a bit of money, and then they all decided, well, let's just play these quarter games. And these games, there is the only thing a little bit that's anything to do with poker is that the hands at the end might be a poker hand, and even some of the games don't have anything to do with that. Even it's like, oh my God, 31 and Chicago and baseball, and
People just want to see money out on the table. That's
it's
all.
like
pot building.
Oh, right. And people, they'd look at me and go, "You folded like 3 games in a row. You don't even know how big the pot's going to get yet." I said, "I know it's going to get big enough that I'm not interested." That. Do you guys want to sit down and play some Hold'em again? And when I said it to a couple of the guys, I said, I just don't play poker. I learned how to play Hold'em. I didn't learn how to play these other games. I did want to insult them, so I called it poker. I said, I didn't really learn all these other poker games. In my mind, I know they're not fucking poker games. I'm sorry, they're not. Yeah. So, but again, I said, if you guys want to play Hold'em, or you want to play, stud or Omaha or shit, I'll even play Pineapple. I know those games. I know the, starting hands. I know all that. I'll play, but some of this. But because I won money, I felt obligated to sit down and
that's how the swings are enough to get people interested, especially if you want to plan. If you play no limit for 3-4 hours.
Right.
A lot of folks will then want to switch and start playing those pot builders.
They want to play the shit where I don't have an advantage anymore.
Yeah, because a lot of folks I would play with, they would want to switch and play like ace deuce in between those types of pot builders where the swings are, $10, $15, $20 would be in the pot minimum at a time where,
and unfortunately, and I know enough to know that, and what happens then, now the odds are so big, you have to keep going in.
Exactly.
So the only time to get out is early. You just, all right, I'm out. I fold. What do you mean you fold? I'm out. I got crap. How do you know you got crap? I got, it was a good time. It was a good time. We cigar smoking, beer drinking, and I didn't partake in, again, me, I don't mix alcohol and poker. And the one guy, the guy I went with, he couldn't drive home. So he said, he said, it's 1:00. My wife's now texting me and saying if she needs to come get us, she needs to know now. If it's going to be later, I said, I can drive. He goes, are you sure you've been drinking all night? I had to tell him offside. I said, I've had 1 beer in front of me all night. It's been empty half the night. That's right. I don't want him to think I'm not drinking, but at the same time, I just don't drink. And, now if you're playing quarter games, you might as well drink because it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
So again, I don't know. I don't know that I could get into that because I read a little bit. I studied a tad. There is no strategy, and then when
hope and pray.
Well, the problem is you can't win all their money and then not participate in that part. So I had to.
It looks bad.
I had to sit down and push here and there, and again, I gave 10% of my money back playing quarter games.
Right.
Could have been worse, I guess. Because I wouldn't even know the rules. And then one of the games, I guess I had and I think you kind of said it was called In Between or something. They give you 2 cards and then you can bet the pot or whatever. I'm like, I don't know.
The next card is going to be in
between. I had an ace too, or I had an ace, which was the high.
And a 2 with,
I couldn't. The only thing I would have lost is another ace or another 2, but I didn't know that. So I only bet like $2. He goes, you could have bet the pot, you'd have won $14. I didn't know that. I didn't even know the rules. I still didn't even know what the hell I was doing.
Right.
And then they look at me like, why'd you bring the guy that can't play poker? All right, I can't play poker, but I won all the money earlier when we played a real poker game.
Yeah, I've seen people lose hundreds of dollars on that game.
Right, you can. I think the biggest pot when I was there got up to $48, and it was all quarters. Mm-hmm. I'm like, God. Yeah. And they did say, see, unlike other Hold'em games that I'm used to, the money on the table is all you can bet. You can't pull money out of your pocket. That's the way most places I play do. Nope, not this quarter game shit. If you want to keep going, if you need to go to your car and clean out the cup or write a check, we'll let you stay in that pot. I'm like, that's just true gambling. And hey, if I want to just true gamble, I'll play DFS hockey.
Yeah, go do that.
Right, go do that. All right, Chris, we had fun. Again, we did very little research today. We killed an hour. I think we gave a little bit of fantasy advice. And I'm going to go eat some Jelly Bellies. I'm started watching Game of Thrones. Are you a Game of Thrones guy? Have you ever watched it?
Nope. Haven't watched a single episode.
I would have said that last week when we did the show, but Joey's dad, everybody at work's into it. I've heard too much about it, and so I started. That was my goal on vacation. My goal was, okay, I'm going to get through as many. My goal this week was to do nothing, but watch Game of Thrones. I'm up through almost to the end of season 3. So So you can't help me there. And like I said, this was my first Christmas where we are at that Christmas age, not like you. We have no kids now. My kids are all adults and we have no grandkids. So, there's none of that. The Christmas is pretty much, eat, drink, open a few gifts and you're done. There's not that big, a big bunch of kids opening 47 $5 toys and all that. But you're right at that age where you still have a lot of kids, your kids are in that. Christmas is still a pretty big deal, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, they were freaking out when we'd do the one present the night beforehand, and then after they go to bed, we bring out a couple of larger presents for them to have out and fill up their stockings and all that. Right. So yeah, it's a big deal for them.
Yeah. See, we didn't have to get up early. We got to sleep in. I only have one kid that lives at the house, and he wanted to sleep in. Now he did ask for a special breakfast. I said, all right, I'll get up. Deep fried French toast. That I don't make that very often, but he kind of. A lot of people don't know what that is. If you ever go to Frisch's, that's kind of like a thing at Frisch's on their breakfast bar where they have the frozen deep fried French toast. So it's kind of fun. So
yeah.
All right. You got any plans for the new year? Are you smoking anything going into New Year's Eve or?
Not that I know of as of right now. I think we got enough leftovers to carry us through, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Don't have any big plans yet New Year's Eve. I don't think we're doing. I mean, we haven't done anything for a while. With the wife at the bakery, she has to work the following day at 4 a.m. It's hard for her to get off a schedule just to, I stay up last few years by myself, watch the ball drop, maybe play some poker. Maybe this year I'll play poker. So we'll see.
Okay.
Well, happy holidays. Have a happy new year. Drive safe if you're going somewhere. If you don't,
we'll be at the house.
There you go. That's the safest place to be. Should be here next Wednesday. That's the 2nd. I have to work, so I'm on vacation I'm off all the way until next Wednesday. So
okay.
Again, we might do another freestyling show like this since it'll be a long week for me being on vacation my first day back. And again, it's early. We'll be able to talk maybe playoffs, who's going to be in the playoffs, that kind of stuff. So
there'll be plenty of news.
Yeah, we'll come up with something. Whatever. Chris, thanks for coming out tonight. People in the chat room, I know it looks like we put people to sleep. Again, this chat room, if you're not talking fantasy and especially football or baseball, they tap out pretty early. But I do appreciate them when they're out there. Lenny Melnick, FantasySports.com, the Legend Sports Network. Tomorrow morning, Lenny, he's gone all the way through the Christmas day. He had a show. He will do a baseball show again tomorrow morning at 9:00. I don't think there's anything following us, or they would have bumped us by now. I didn't pay attention. I didn't think I saw that. So everybody come back tomorrow. I think JJ Work said he'll be back tomorrow then at 2:00 with his show. So everybody have a safe end of the old year and the beginning of the new year. And we'll see you next Wednesday here at 10:00. Chris, say goodnight.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan Podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say good night. Good night.